At my sister's engagement dinner, my mother raised her glass under the chandelier and smiled. A toast to the daughter who actually made something of her life. The guests clapped. My sister laughed. Then my mother turned to me, and to the one who didn't. "You're a failure, Mila." "Get out." The room went silent. Forks froze midair. I walked away as she handed my sister the house keys worth $500,000. That night, I lost my home and my family. But 3 years later, they drove past my new gate and realized whose house it really was. Growing up in Greenwich, our family looked perfect, from the outside white fences, charity dinners, and a manicured lawn that my mother Leslie called our reputation. Inside, everything revolved around appearances. My mother was the kind of woman who cared more about the country club gossip than her own daughter's tears. My sister Lisa, 3 years older and always polished, was her masterpiece. "Lisa will run the world someday," Mom used to say loud enough for me to hear. My father, Zachary, was different. He was quiet, patient, a software engineer who traded his own passion for technology to make my mother happy in finance. He was the one who taught me to code sitting with me late at night in his cluttered home office. "Build something real," he'd say, adjusting his glasses while I typed. Those words stuck with me long after he was gone. When he died in a car accident my senior year of high school, the house went cold. Mom's obsession with image grew even sharper, like she had to prove to the world that losing her husband hadn't shaken her control. She found it easier to love Lisa, the reflection of herself, while I became the reminder of what she couldn't manage. My achievements in renewable energy and software barely earned a nod. Cute hobby, she'd mutter, while Lisa got framed awards for business essays that Dad once helped her write. Aunt Lori, Mom's older sister, lived one town over and was no better. She had married into money, and every time she visited, she found a new way to remind me of my place. Still playing with gadgets, Mila, she'd smirk, sipping her expensive wine. "Maybe one day you'll grow out of it." I learned to smile, to stay quiet, to disappear before their laughter hit too hard. For years, I believed silence kept the peace. But that night, Lisa's engagement dinner proved silence only protects the wrong people. I stood beside the table holding my glass while the chandelier above us flickered against the gold wallpaper. Mom lifted her glass and toasted Lisa as if she'd just crowned a queen. Then she turned to me and ended the sentence that would change everything into the one who didn't. When the laughter died, I walked out without a word. My mother handed Lisa the keys to the family home, the same place where Dad once showed me how to build my first solar tracking app. Watching her slip those keys into her purse was like watching them bury my father's belief in me all over again. That was the night I stopped being their quiet disappointment. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew it had to be somewhere far from them and far from the person they thought I was. The first night after that dinner, I slept in my car. The rain hit the windshield so hard it blurred the streetlights into white streaks. I remember gripping the steering wheel and whispering, "Don't cry." Crying felt like something my mother would expect. By morning, I drove to Brooklyn and signed a lease for the cheapest studio I could find. One room, one window, one radiator that hissed like it was alive. I unpacked everything I owned: a duffel bag of clothes, a cracked laptop, and a folder with my old coding projects. That was it. No family photos, no furniture, no trace of the life I'd just been cut from. For weeks, I lived on instant noodles and freelance work, small website gigs that barely covered my bills. Every night, I'd scroll through photos of Lisa's engagement party splashed across social media. She looked radiant. My mother stood beside her, champagne in hand, the caption reading, "Proud Mom Moment." I didn't comment. I didn't post. I just worked. One afternoon, while writing code in a crowded coffee shop, I overheard two investors talking about a city grant for sustainable tech startups. Something clicked. I opened my laptop and began sketching the idea that had lived in my head since Dad's lessons years ago, a program that could reduce urban energy waste through adaptive solar systems. That's when Professor Melinda Jenkins, my old university mentor, reappeared in my life. She'd always believed in me back in college when no one else cared about renewable tech. I emailed her the prototype, half expecting silence. Instead, she replied within hours, "Come see me." This is promising. Her small lab at NYU became my second home. She introduced me to Misty Ramirez, a sharp engineer with quick hands and quicker ideas. Misty understood me in a way few people ever did, driven stubborn, quietly angry at being underestimated. We spent nights debugging running simulations, sleeping under our desks between tests. You know, Misty said once you code like you're fighting someone. Maybe I am, I told her. The program Green Tech Solutions began to take shape. We built models that tracked sunlight angles across city grids and adjusted energy flow automatically. When the first version worked, we screamed so loud security came up to check. Still, survival was a daily battle. The rent notice slid under my door one morning with red letters that made my stomach twist. I remember calling Misty and laughing through my panic. I just need one investor before the landlord changes the locks. That investor turned out to be Justin Patel, a venture capitalist Melinda introduced us to. He wore sneakers with his suit and spoke fast, like his mind was 2 steps ahead of his words. After seeing our demo, he said, "You're solving something that actually matters. Let's make it real." His fund gave us $75,000, barely enough to breathe, but enough to start. Misty and I moved into a small co-working space that smelled like burnt coffee and old carpet. We worked 18-hour days. Sometimes I'd glance at the reflection in the office window, my tired face, hollow eyes, hair tied back, and whisper, "Not a failure." Slowly, things shifted. A local grocery chain agreed to test our software across 10 stores. The results were better than we'd promised, energy bills down 30%. The day they signed the contract, I went home, sat on my apartment floor, and let the tears fall. Not because I was sad, because for the first time I had proof. I didn't call my mother. I didn't need her to know. Not yet. But deep down, a small voice whispered that she would find out eventually. And when she did, I wanted her to see it not in headlines, not in gossip, but with her own eyes. The months that followed were a blur of code contracts and caffeine. Misty and I worked until dawn most nights, half living on takeout and stubbornness. Green Tech Solutions was still small, just 2 women in a room full of tangled wires, but it was alive. Every client review, every new email inquiry felt like oxygen. Still, the old voices in my head followed me everywhere. My mother's cute hobby, Mila. My aunt's, "You'll grow out of it." And Elisa's the one that hurt most. "You're just jealous." Those echoes became my fuel. Every time exhaustion threatened to crush me, I'd hear them again and keep typing. We hit roadblocks, of course. Our first big contract almost collapsed when a major retailer delayed payments, and the rent on our co-working space nearly doubled overnight. Misty panicked. I didn't. I'd already lost everything once money didn't scare me anymore. What scared me was going back to who I was before silent, apologetic, invisible. One night, I stayed late alone, finishing code updates for a system audit. Outside the city hummed the low buzz of traffic, the rhythm of a world that didn't care whether I made it or not. I remember looking at the screen's reflection in the window and whispering, "Dad, I'm still building something real." That week, we landed a feature in a sustainability blog. It wasn't huge, but it caught the attention of a local tech reporter who wanted to visit our setup. When the article came out, it opened doors. Small businesses started calling. I hired 2 interns. We moved into a modest office with sunlight and a decent coffee machine. The milestones came faster after that partnerships grants new cities testing our product. Our name started appearing in newsletters that once ignored me, and yet I kept quiet. I didn't update family. I didn't post online. Success felt sacred, fragile like a flame that would vanish if I bragged. Misty kept teasing me. "You know your mom's probably pretending she discovered you." I'd smile, let her. I don't need her story anymore. Then came the moment everything shifted. The grocery chain's national board invited us to present Green Tech at their headquarters. The room was full of executives in suits, each holding tablets with our data displayed. I walked in wearing the same minimalist white blouse I'd worn to Lisa's engagement dinner. It felt symbolic, like rewriting that night on my own terms. When I finished the presentation, the room erupted in applause. The contract we signed that day meant full financial independence, no more rent panic, no more skipping meals. That evening, I bought a small modern house in Greenwich, a quiet cul-de-sac glass wall, solar panels running entirely on my software. My name was the only one on the deed. As I stood in the empty living room, sunlight pouring through the glass, I thought of that night 3 years ago, my mother's voice, Lisa's laughter, the keys glinting in my sister's hand. I had no plans to return the favor. My silence would do it for me. 3 years later, success didn't feel like fireworks. It felt like quiet mornings. I'd wake before sunrise, brew coffee in my spotless kitchen, and watch the light crawl across the solar panels on my roof. My house hummed with the low, steady rhythm of my own software optimizing every watt. It wasn't just shelter, it was proof. Green Tech Solutions had grown beyond anything I imagined. We'd secured major contracts across New York, and New Jersey expanded our team to 20 engineers and were negotiating with city officials for large-scale implementation. Our clients saved millions. My face appeared in a few interviews, but I still kept my voice measured calm. People called me visionary. I called it survival. That October morning started like any other. The air was crisp sunlight cutting through red gold leaves. I was on a call with Misty about a new energy audit when my phone buzzed again and again, unknown number, same area code as my mother's. I ignored it. When it rang a fourth time, I sighed and stepped outside. Through the glass gate, a black SUV slowed on the street engine purring. It wasn't until the window rolled down that I saw her Lisa. Perfect hair, perfect nails, perfect panic. Her eyes darted between me and the house like she couldn't make sense of it. I didn't move. She froze, staring at the discreet Green Tech Solutions plaque beside the driveway, the one with my name under it. Her hand shot to her phone. I could read her lips before I heard her voice. Mom, this house is worth a fortune. Wait, this logo. It's hers. Mom, it's Mila's, my sister's. Her voice cracked into a half scream. Then she drove off tires, squealing down the street. Inside, I stood still for a long time, the coffee cooling in my hands. I'd always imagined the day they found out. I thought maybe I'd feel triumph vindication, something burning and loud. But what came instead was quiet relief, like finally setting down a weight I'd carried too long. An hour later, the intercom buzzed. A familiar voice followed. Mila, it's Mom. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity, cruel and calm, made me press the button. She stood there in her tailored coat makeup, too heavy hair sprayed into place like she'd rehearsed this visit in a mirror. Time had carved new lines around her mouth, but her eyes were the same calculating first, soft second. When I opened the door, her perfume hit me before her words did. Mila, she said quietly, you've done well. I didn't reply. She looked past me into the foyer, scanning the minimalist furniture, the warm lights, the wall of windows. Everything she used to worship in other people's houses. I didn't realize how far you'd come, she continued. Lisa called, and I had to see it for myself. I leaned on the door frame. You've seen it now. Her lips trembled slightly. I was wrong, Mila. About so many things. I almost laughed. The same woman who once kicked me out now spoke like a guest. I remembered her voice at that dinner, sharp, proud, cruel. You're a failure, Mila. Get out. I don't need an apology, I said softly. I just need peace. She hesitated. I want us to be a family again. I met her eyes. We were never one. Her composure cracked then. For the first time, she looked small, like a woman stripped of her audience. You've changed, she whispered. I smiled faintly. No, I just stopped asking for permission. We stood there in silence, the kind that makes people face themselves. I saw her glance around again, desperate to find something to hold on to, some reason to still feel superior. But all she saw was what she'd thrown away. Finally, she turned toward the door. If you ever want to talk, I'll let you know, I said, closing it gently behind her. The sound of the latch echoed through the house like punctuation. I walked back to my office where the sunlight spilled across the desk and glinted off a photo I kept beside my laptop, Dad and me laughing over tangled wires and coffee cups. His handwriting still marked the back billed something real. I smiled, whispering I did. That night, my phone buzzed again. Pamela, my old college friend. You won't believe this, she said between laughs. Your mom's name is all over that Greenwich Facebook group. People are saying she threw you out and gave your sister the house. Now they found out you built your own company here. She's mortified. I said nothing, just listened as Pamela read a few posts aloud. Leslie Moore's daughter owns that smart house on Elmwood. Karma's poetic, isn't it? Pamela chuckled. You should see the comments. Everyone's on your side. I leaned back in my chair, the quiet hum of the house surrounding me. I don't need sides, I said. Just silence. But silence, it turned out, wasn't what they got. 2 weeks later, Lisa's husband filed for divorce. Word spread fast. Her investments, luxury condos she'd flipped for quick profit, had tanked. She'd sold her Manhattan apartment, moved back with Mom, and stopped showing up at the club. Pamela called again. Your sister's not doing great. Mom, too. No one invites them anywhere anymore. I thought of that engagement dinner, the laughter, the applause that filled the air when they gave her my father's house. Every guest who cheered back then now whispered behind their backs. I didn't gloat. I didn't post. I didn't call. I just kept working. Green tech was expanding into new states, our software integrating with smart grids across the Northeast. Misty ran operations now. Justin handled investors. My days were long but peaceful. Nights were quiet, filled with the soft rhythm of the solar system shifting to night mode. Sometimes when I stood on the rooftop, I could see the faint glow of the old neighborhood lights, my mother's street, the house that used to be ours. It felt distant now, almost fictional. I remembered that night again, her toast, her voice, the weight of the humiliation. For years, I thought revenge would be fire and fury. Turns out it was sunlight and stillness. The next morning, a letter arrived. No return address, the handwriting hers. I opened it slowly. Mila, it began, I see now what I destroyed. I wanted to shape you into someone the world respected. I didn't realize you already were. I'm sorry. Mom. The paper trembled in my hand. I folded it neatly, walked to the kitchen, and slid it into the flame of the gas stove. The edges curled black, then vanished. I watched the smoke drift upward and whispered, apology accepted, just a not delivered. Outside, the house's automated blinds adjusted with the sun. Light flooded the room again, warm and forgiving. For the first time in years, I felt free not from them, but from needing them. Word travels fast in towns like Greenwich. Within a month, my mother's name, once whispered with admiration, became gossip. The same women who clinked glasses with her at galas now turned their heads at the country club. Someone leaked the story about the engagement dinner, how she'd thrown me out and gifted the family house to my sister. She called her daughter a failure, one post read. Now look who's begging for forgiveness. Pamela sent me screenshots, laughing softly. She's become a cautionary tale, Mila. Everyone says Karma finally showed up wearing solar panels. I didn't laugh. I just stared out the window at the slow rise of the morning sun, my reflection merging with the house that ran entirely on my code. Lisa's life unraveled too. Her marriage collapsed after her husband discovered the debts she'd hidden. She sold her jewelry, then her car, then the condo Mom helped her buy. The sister who once smirked across the table now avoided public places altogether. One evening, I found a small envelope slipped under my door. Inside was a single line written in my mother's handwriting. I lost everything trying to keep appearances. You built everything by being real. No signature, no address, just the truth. I folded the note, set it on my desk, and turned off the lights. The house adjusted itself for night mode, humming softly around me. Silence, justice, peace. I stood on the rooftop as the last light faded the panels, tilting toward the sunset. The city hummed below, but up here it was quiet. I'd rebuilt everything they tore down, and I did it without revenge, just resolve. Sometimes silence speaks louder than shouting. If you've ever had to walk away to find peace, you'll understand.